Last week on the show, we had an exclusive, really devastating and emotional story about a dog named Stevie. So as I told you on the show last week, Stevie was a rescue from the streets of Qatar. Came over through this animal adoption rescue and winds up in the arms and the home of his loving mom, Michelle, who just thought Stevie was the best dog in the world, said that Stevie just loved life, was friendly, never any issues, which is why it was shocking and devastating when Michelle's sitting in her house working from home and hears a gunshot and finds out that her dog Stevie was shot to death in her front yard for apparently no reason in the world. Here's a clip of the moment the shooting happened as captured on a Ring doorbell camera. And just like that. So a 22-year-old man, a neighbor, was arrested for and ultimately charged with animal cruelty in the first degree. Now, we know the investigation into this is still pending, but we had on Stevie's mom, Michelle, who was beside herself, understandably so. And I asked her, about what she hopes the resolution in this case will be. What would your message be to the prosecutor's office as they pursue this case to trial?
Yeah, I need this person to be convicted to the fullest degree. I'm terrified to be in my home. And Stevie was not just an animal. She was my baby. She was a family member.
You can imagine Michelle was even more devastated when she found out that the 22-year-old neighbor who apparently shot Stevie in the head for no reason got let go on $10,000 bail. And when we had Michelle on, I was even shocked by that. I thought, you've got this kid with it's an adult, but a young adult with a gun, apparently just out on a walk, and decides to, according to witnesses, with no provocation, shoot a dog in the head that's in front of its owner's house, and he gets to go home on $10,000 bail. It really shocked me. And then we got an email from the King County Prosecutor's Office, and I give them a lot of credit. I have before, of all the terrible government PIOs out there who try to downplay, make excuses. The King County Prosecutor's Office has truly a wonderful PIO, Casey McNerthy, who offers us a lot of context. And there's a few things he wanted us to know about why the bail was so low. And honestly, I think making an effort to set expectations realistically for what this 22-year-old's fate could be in a court of law in terms of how much time he might spend in jail. So I'm just going to read, because I think you're going to be shocked by it. I was truly devastated all over again when the prosecutor's office told us just how lenient, even if he's convicted of animal cruelty in the first degree, just how lenient the punishments are for that under state law. So again, this is from Casey McNerthy, the King County Prosecutor's Office. He wrote to us, animal cruelty, even in the first degree, is a Class C felony as set by state lawmakers. That's the lowest type of felony crime. Animal cruelty is also not defined by state lawmakers as a violent crime. There are multiple types of crime that people think are violent crimes, but are not classified that way under state law. He went on to say, animal cruelty is also an unranked felony set by the state's Sentencing Guidelines Commission. What does that mean? Someone convicted of animal cruelty with no conviction history could face a sentencing range set by state lawmakers of 0 to 364 days, even for a felony offense. With a conviction, the sentencing court would have to weigh arguments from prosecutors and defense and make a determination. Sometimes prosecutors or the courts get people upset, believing that a sentencing of several years could be handed down, but that's not the case. And those sentencing ranges are statewide. 0 days to 364 days in jail for shooting a dog in the head. That's insane. Animal cruelty, even animal cruelty in the first degree, not a violent crime? How is it not an act of violence to shoot and kill an animal that, again, wasn't justified? We're not talking about legal hunting or anything like that. How is beating an animal? Some of the atrocious stories we've heard about animal cruelty or what happens in downtown Seattle, Pioneer Square. God forbid you walk your dog down there and it gets stabbed. Stabbing a dog, stabbing an animal, shooting an animal in the head, a dog in the head, someone's family member. That's not a violent crime. That's a Class C felony, even in the first degree. And they might spend 0 days in jail. And look, in this case, you can't blame the King County Prosecutor's Office. That's statewide statute. Those are statewide sentencing recommendations. So I think what the prosecutor's office is trying to do here is say, hey, I know this case is getting a lot of attention, but this is what the law says. And this guy, given the fact that he has no criminal history, he could spend 0 days in jail. 0 days in jail for walking down the street, taking out his 9mm pistol and shooting Stevie in the head. That's insane. That needs to be fixed. Now, one thing I will say is there's actually been a bipartisan effort in Olympia that has gone under our radar. It's not something that I had heard about this legislative session as I was complaining about a lot of other things. I want to give lawmakers credit because there's a bipartisan, they loosely refer to themselves as the Fur Caucus. So they're trying to look out for animal welfare, which I think is awesome. If I were in the legislature, I would absolutely be a member of the Fur Caucus. So it was actually State Representative Maury Leavitt, a Democrat, who saw our story on Stevie and reached out after the fact and said, hey, FYI, we did pass a House bill this session on a bipartisan basis with bipartisan sponsors to strengthen the punishment for specifically animal cruelty in the first degree, which is what we're talking about here. So we looked into it. So House Bill 1961, and essentially what it would do is it would add animal cruelty in the first degree it would make it a ranked offense. So that's what we had talked about, where if it's an unranked offense, it's like 0 to 364 days in jail. If they rank it, which means it falls into there's this ranking of seriousness, all the way from capital murder on down when it comes to felony crimes. And so it would become a level 3 classified offense, animal cruelty in the first degree, which, gosh, I got to say, I was looking at some of the other things, even though this is strengthening it, right, for people who commit animal cruelty in the first degree. And I'm very grateful that they did this in Olympia. And I kind of feel bad that it went under my radar because I should be celebrating good bipartisan bills. And I think adding animal cruelty as a ranked felony offense is great. But some of the other things that were like ranked 3 offenses were like unlawful taking of shellfish, or something like that, like trafficking of shellfish, or there was like taking unlawful use of a unclassified vessel or something like that, So I'm like, oh gosh. Shoot a dog in the head, and it's the same as like taking someone's shellfish without permission. But still, so the King County Prosecutor's Office referenced that new bipartisan bill when talking about what that will mean, but also noted that won't apply to this case because it hasn't taken effect yet, and it's not going to be retroactive. So this strengthening of animal cruelty in the first degree is going to be good. It does nothing for Stevie to get justice for Stevie or to get justice for Stevie's mom or to hold this 22-year-old accountable in an actually meaningful way. So the prosecutors told us of House Bill 1961, which passed both chambers, was signed into law by the governor. It makes first-degree animal cruelty a ranked offense. However, it will be ranked as a level 3. That means that rather than 0 to 364 days in jail with a conviction, the sentencing range moves to 2 months to 5 years. So, okay, you go up to 5 years on the high end, but still 2 months on the low end. He said, though that's dependent on a convicted defendant's criminal history. With no history, it's unlikely to see a court go for the high end of the range based on the court rules, guidelines, and weighing arguments from both sides. That new law does not take effect until June 6th, so it would not apply here even if the defendant you asked about is convicted. Now, I would say then, even under this new House bill, after June 6th, I still think, sorry, if this is controversial, that shooting a dog in the head for no reason should warrant more than 2 months in jail, even for someone without a criminal history. I mean, how often have we talked about some of the precursors for violent offenders and murderers and serial killers? It starts with hurting innocent animals. Some of the most horrific crimes that I've covered since I'm a journalist have to do with animal abuse or started with animal abuse. I'm reminded of the guy, I don't even know if he was ever caught, who was like skinning cats alive down in the South End. Like cat after cat after cat after cat. Those would be animal cruelty in the first degree charges. You're telling me a guy who's out there skinning cats alive for no good reason other than some sick, twisted pleasure? He could get 2 months in jail? This is wild, wild stuff. And I'll tell you what made me even more upset. I was already mad. And then Nicole had to go and make me even more upset. Because this guy gets out $10,000 bail, right? $10,000 bail because, oh, he has no criminal history. Animal cruelty isn't considered a violent offense. Well, you know who got more than $10,000 bail over the weekend? A guy who built a shack, a homeless guy who built a shack in a park. $35,000 bail. This is from Fox 13. Arrested again, homeless man in custody following third attempt to build a cabin in Seattle Park. On Friday, neighbors near Dr. Jose Rizal Park once again noticed a familiar homeless man with heavy machinery. Andrea Suarez was out there and said, this is the third time in 6 months. Whoever keeps bailing him out is doing a real injustice, not only to the park, but to Steve Irwin. That's the guy. He needs help. Help is not going to get him is not getting him out of jail, letting him come back here. They go on to say, in February, he was arrested for building a cabin in the woods, complete with beer kegs, power, a washing machine, and more. Irwin is currently behind bars. A judge set his bail at $35,000. He also faces second-degree identity theft charges. Prosecutors say at the time of his most recent arrest, multiple IDs were found in his possession. Now, look, I think $35,000, I'm not arguing that that's too low. I'm arguing that in comparison with a guy who shot a dog in the head and got $10,000 bail, it shows how even more ridiculous it is, the bail that the 22-year-old who shot Stevie got. Again, second-degree identity theft charges. So that's on top of just the fact that he was arrested for, again, trying to build this quasi-house in a park. Neither of those are violent offenses. You know, they're creating societal issues, but they're not violent offenses. He got $35,000. He's indigent, so he's not going to be able to get out. I don't know if maybe the Injustice Fund or whatever it is will post his bond on that. $35,000 for this homeless man? $10,000 for Megan Youssef? The guy who shoots a dog in the head. Somebody help me make sense of this, because really my mind is spinning right now. It's truly unbelievable, but if I'm looking for what do we do with that, you know, I honestly think this is something that we could have bipartisan progress on. It sounds like there's already a bipartisan desire to strengthen animal cruelty laws in the state of Washington. And Rep. Levitt was telling me they did that out of recognition that people who hurt animals often go on to hurt human beings. So let's make sure we raise the level of that offense so they're on the radar, so that when they get out, maybe they have some sort of supervision, which is awesome, and more needs to be done. I'm sorry, but you cannot kill an innocent animal for no reason, just for fun because you're out on a walk, and then get 0 days in jail. And not even a day in jail having to sit there and wait to get bailed out because your bail was so low. So this is something I'm ready to rally around for the next legislative session, because it's a no-brainer. What would be the reason to not say animal cruelty is a violent offense? What would be the reason for that? What would be the reason not to characterize animal cruelty in the first degree as a higher offense? Wild stuff.